The 3 months since Charlie Kirk was murdered, I've really tried not to comment on the murder investigation in public, and it's not because I don't care. Of course, I love Charlie and knew him well since he was a teenager. But I haven't said anything about it. I really tried not to say anything about it. First, because I don't really know anything that everyone else doesn't know. I've asked around, but of course, how do you know what the truth is? But the other reason I haven't said anything is because I know personally a number of the people involved in what's now become a very large story. I know them really well, and I really think a lot of all of them on every side. Candace Owens, I've known a long time. I love Candace Owens. Blake Neff at TPUSA once worked for me at a couple of different places, and I love Blake Neff. Erica Kirk, I've known since she was dating Charlie Kirk, and I love Erica Kirk. And I think these are all really, really decent people. And so it's been my desire for 3 months not to get involved in any of this. And in general, to think to myself, anybody who is earnestly searching for the truth, whether they're right or wrong, but as long as they're motivated by a desire to find out what happened and therefore honor Charlie's memory by getting to justice, anyone who's doing that, I'm not going to criticize. Again, no matter what track they're on, lots of us, and this has certainly happened to me, have good moments, but good motives, but wind up in the wrong place. But it's a sincere mistake. So that definitely happens. I have done that, and so I've just wanted to stay out. And then the other day, I had like a 3-hour conversation with Theo Vaughn, and it was not about Charlie Kirk or anything related to it, but that topic came up.
Tell me how this guy who seemed normal became a radical trans furry murderer? It's not enough to tell me, oh, trans. I'm not pro-trans, by the way.
But was that the guy or his boyfriend?
Well, exactly. Exactly right. Tell me how this guy became so radicalized that he murdered a stranger. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying I want an explanation for how it happened. Why wouldn't I?
I agree.
Oh, we can't talk about that because it'll prejudice the jury pool. Really, you've told the world that you have both a confession from him in his text to his boyfriend and the murder weapon with his fingerprints on it. I think you've got a pretty solid case. So why is it so difficult to just explain? So I have said from the beginning, if you don't like what Candace Owens is saying, why don't you call her and offer a more plausible explanation for what happened? Oh, she's bad. She's bad. Okay. I mean, I like her a lot. I don't think she's bad, but I love her actually. But let's just stipulate she's bad. But why wouldn't you do that?
Because I don't agree with some of the stuff that the rabbit hole she goes down, but I don't
even know.
But I like the fact that she likes to dig in the garden,
Theo, we are in this garden, okay? And we're not getting out of this garden with the FedSlop narrative. We're just not getting out of the garden with trying to emotionally manipulate us and say it's not. This feels like COVID, right? It's not like COVID-19. It's like Candace 19. It's another fake. They're saying it's a fake virus. Like, oh, you got infected. You just can't do it. 6 feet social distancing from Candace Owens. We're gonna get every influencer on social media. 6 feet social distancing. Save lives. What are you, a grandma killer? What, you just don't like it? What? I'm the common sense virus. It's coming around. It's so evil. Stay at home, wear a mask, save lives. You don't want to catch it. You don't want to catch the common sense, you guys. You don't want to catch it. Anyways, I dare. I'm sorry, I dare. And I have been very careful because I wasn't sure what direction she was going to go. If she was like, I was like, look, she's got a whole business that she's got to figure out. There's a lot of people in her ear. Maybe they did this transition too quickly and she's just keeping her head no, what she's saying is Turning Point USA is untouchable. And it's a no from me. But you know me. I'm just out here saying what needs to be said.
And I said, in effect, I don't trust the FBI. And that gave some people the impression that I was, accusing them of being involved in Charlie's assassination. And of course, I wasn't. And I certainly didn't mean to. But it gives me the chance now to say what I think, which is that we should not necessarily trust the FBI. And by the way, why would we? It's not an attack on, the political leadership of it. I've known Dan Bongino, for example, for a long time and like Dan, and don't imagine he would ever be involved in intentionally covering up a murder of somebody. I don't believe that. But Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, for that matter, are at the top of the org chart, but this is a huge organization and parts of it act independently from leadership. That's the nature of bureaucracy. So saying, well, I like Dan Bongino and don't think he would do something wrong on purpose, which is how I feel, doesn't mean that I trust the FBI or have to trust the FBI. And again, why would I? If there's one lesson of the last election, the 2024 election, it's that a lot of our biggest systems, our biggest institutions have rot in them, and that needs to be reformed. And as if we needed more proof of it, we'd learned what a lot of us suspected for years, that January 6th was in effect a setup, and the FBI was key to that setup. And it's still not clear that everyone involved in that setup at the FBI has been fired or punished for that. So no person, no American is under some moral obligation to believe everything the government tells you, particularly institutions or agencies that have a long documented, factually documented track record of committing crimes, participating illegally in our political system, for example, as the FBI has done, manufacturing crimes, setting people up, distorting justice. That's the opposite of their job, of course, which is to get to justice through facts and then to tell the rest of us how they arrived at this conclusion, to prove to the rest of us that the right people are being punished. So we're not under any obligation. Of course, we shouldn't invent theories to discredit the FBI, but it's not enough to have government officials tell us, well, this is the truth. We have a right, probably an obligation, to say, well, can you prove it? And if you can't, I don't have to believe you. So if there's one thing that bothers me above all about the investigation into Charlie Kirk, is that is getting lost. As people argue over what happened, we are potentially letting our largest federal law enforcement agency off the hook. It is the job of the FBI to find out what happened and to tell the rest of us, not hide behind, well, it's national security, confidential sources. No, tell us what happened. Show us what happened. Convince us what happened. That's your job. And we shouldn't accept anything less. And by the way, when we do accept something less, then, new explanations fill the vacuum left by the FBI, which we pay to explain to us what happened. And so I'm going to really do my best not to talk about things I don't understand, state things as though I know them when I don't know them. I'm going to do my best to stay out of it because I love Charlie and I want justice to be done in this case. But the rest of us should remain skeptical. We have a duty to remain skeptical, and we should not be ashamed of our skepticism. Thanks.
I agree that we should retain a certain level of skepticism, but skepticism will never solve anything as long as the government and its actors are never held to the same rules as the people it governs. What I mean by that is that the government itself doesn't have to follow its rules. It has its own legal immunity from the crimes that, let's say, a crime that you or I were to commit, we would be immediately held accountable for. So that's always going to be the problem when it comes to being skeptical, because being skeptical doesn't necessarily solve anything. It just means that you're able to see the problem, but just because you can see the problem doesn't mean that you can address it. So as long as the government is in a position where it never has to be held accountable for its own actions, then we'll never live in a society that is fair or responsible for the things that it does. We'll always end up living in a system that's a two-tier system. So, and that's not necessarily a problem with the type of government or economy or anything like that. That's just inherent to corruption itself. So while I agree with a lot of what Tucker Carlson is saying, I also disagree as well, because just noticing something doesn't necessarily give you the ground to actually do anything about it. I don't know if that makes any sense. So, to make this make sense, I wanted to kind of bring up there's been a lot of like recent headlines and sort of discussion happening around all of these judges where some dude gets arrested a bunch of times. He's got like 100 plus arrests, and then suddenly nothing happens, and then the judge just releases them on no bail, and they go right back into society and they keep committing crimes. So, this is something that Asmongold has brought up before. That's actually something that's kind of worthy of a discussion, which is, should judges be held accountable for the criminals that they release? This makes sense to me because if you know somebody is a repeat offender and they've committed 100 plus crimes that they've been arrested for, if you then advocate for their release and they go out into society and they commit the same crime again and again and again, and these are not light crimes, these are not, this guy stole a Snickers bar, this is like serious heinous crimes that are being committed. If these people are continuing to be released back into society to recommit the same crimes, why are the judges not being charged and held accountable for releasing these criminals back into society? That's the question that I think we really need to focus on and get answers for. And the reason I say this is because as long as political and judicial people have immunity from facing the repercussions of their own actions, as long as that exists on some level, you're never going to live in a society that is governed properly. Because then you have, as I said before, the two-tier system where you have your normal everyday uh, person that wakes up, goes to work, does their 9 to 5, goes home, and then you have the elite class of people who don't care, don't follow the rules, don't show up to their 9 to 5, or if they do, it's specifically geared towards some sort of political propaganda narrative on either the left or the right. I mean, I would say if you've been paying attention at all for the last 10 years, it's more prevalent on the left than the right for sure. But that's not to say that the right doesn't have some degree of accountability in that same field. There are times where I've seen the right try to do these weaselly little tactics that the left does, which is like really annoying. But that's a whole different conversation in and of itself. But the ultimate problem is and that's the problem, right? Is we get pulled into this dichotomy of left versus right when in fact we should be having a discussion about just the rules in general and making sure that no matter what political ideology you adhere to, that those rules apply to everybody across the board in a fair way. This is why it doesn't make sense to have race politics. It doesn't make sense to have any sort of gender-based discrimination in the law either. Whenever you have a law, like for instance, the law that says don't murder people, that makes sense, right? Like there's no caveat like don't murder people. Well, unless you're Mexican, then you can murder as many people as you want. Like there's no caveat. It's just straight don't murder people. That's the law. And if you murder people, you should go to jail. And it's really that simple. That's really what it comes down to. But that's the problem, is that our system has become so diluted, so loose in terms of being held accountable to itself and to its people, which, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to stir some sort of like violent message, but I mean, it's literally the entire reason the Second Amendment exists in the first place, is so you can protect yourself from the tyrants in government. Um, but I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day, anyways. I mean, but really what it comes down to is that nobody's being held accountable for literally anything. I mean, we have uh, this one guy that's popping up here in the news, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who's been arrested 100 times in Rhode Island, facing all these charges, all this stuff, keeps going to court. Same judge just keeps releasing him back onto the street again and again and again. Um, you know, and what the hell? Like, I just pulled this up online, and I mean, why is it that he's getting released? Like if you're never going to be held accountable, or these people are never going to be held accountable, just simply due to the fact that they're here illegally, uh, so then laws don't exist or matter apparently if you're here illegally. Like that doesn't make any sense. If you were to do this in any other country, uh, these other countries, like if you were to do this in the UAE is not going to take you, they're not going to send you in front of a judge. You're not going to get a fair trial. Like they're probably just going to beat you to death, and you'll probably get flogged in the street, and you'll probably be there and die. That's how that gets handled over there. Um, so this whole like pretending that we're not, um, we're in some way not empathetic towards people, and we're not, we should just give people a slap on the wrist, and why are we so harsh to people who come here illegally? Well, I mean, when they murder people, and they come over and they murder a bunch of people, and then they just keep getting released back on the street, like what the hell? Like, we don't have a society at this point. There is no society, there's no law, there's no order, there's nothing. And that's the problem that we're running into. And I think people are starting to kind of wake up to it, but I don't know if people really truly understand how serious this is. This is we're living in a in a world where if you are a United States citizen, you are held to a higher standard than people that come here and break the law and illegally stay here in the country and just commit crime after crime after crime. How does that make any sense whatsoever? It doesn't. And so, anyways, I mean, that's why I fundamentally disagree with Tucker Carlson when it comes to just noticing things, because just noticing things does absolutely nothing. Um, Mainly, I mean, you want to talk about corruption. Was it rumored that the Clintons gave their daughter a wedding gift of millions of dollars that somehow came out of U.S. taxpayer funds? Just recently, Tim Walz in the news for defrauding the government of $1 billion, uh, through some Somalian Feed the Kids Foundation thing that hasn't fed a single child. Um, so I have questions. When are people going to start being held accountable? You have Republicans that have been talking about accountability for over a decade, and now they have the perfect opportunity to hold people accountable. They have the Senate, the House, the presidency, they have everything, and nothing is being done. So at a certain point, I have to wonder, um, what's going on, because you know we're not practicing what we're preaching, so to speak. Um, and people need to be held accountable. And if people are not going to be held accountable for doing these things over and over and over again and hurting the people that they are supposedly the representatives of, we are their constituents, meaning that we vote these people in to represent us. So, um, how is it that when we do that, they're allowed to remain there and just say, "No, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to do my job, which is to represent you, um, at all, and we're just going to go do some like weird woke propaganda nonsense, or we're going to pretend to notice the woke propaganda nonsense and do absolutely nothing about it." That's what's strange to me, how that is allowed to occur. and how 0 people are being held accountable. I think this is a wider discussion that really needs to take place soon, because I just don't see this lasting long. Eventually, people are going to get tired, and that is the turning point that I think people should really worry about, is when society understands and recognizes that the rules no longer exist. So they have to take it upon themselves to make sure that accountability happens. Anyways, this is just, I guess, one of my little rants that I kind of wanted to talk and be a little sincere about, and kind of let people know where I stand. I don't know, maybe you disagree, and hey, that's totally cool. If you disagree and you think things should be a different way or whatever, like, that's cool too. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I just, we all have to be free to be who we are. We all have to be free to uh, juggle different thoughts and ideologies and try things out, uh, over time. And that way we can refine who we are as people. Nobody's born in a vacuum. Nobody's born perfect. Um, so that's okay. But I think we need to, as a society, have a conversation, not necessarily about the aesthetics of things, which, I mean, that's fine too, right? Like, Trump's a big aesthetic guy. Like, that's all he ever talks about is this, that, like, oh, we're going to lock Hillary up, like it's a big joke, but I can tell you for sure, like, there's a lot of people that are not happy that he didn't lock her up and that he essentially lied to their face. So, um, if you really want to know, um, why I think he didn't win a second term, like a second consecutive term, is that I think, I think people just found out that he was a bullshit artist and that he wasn't really going to do all of the things that he said that he was going to do. Um, and that, a lot of people were just like, well, let's try Biden and see how that goes. And hey, that went even worse, right? So, people, you know, people learn, right? I mean, that's how it goes. Uh, People get stuck for 4 years with a president that does nothing but make them more poor, make them, second class citizens in their own country, violates their rights constantly, and then, you know, surprise, surprise, people are voting for Trump again. Um, and that's just the way that it goes. But I think it's important to recognize that. I mean, this is something. It's a, we're all growing politically. Like, we're all kind of like slowly understanding, what's going on, and I think we're getting to a point where we need real answers. And I don't think it matters what answers we get, as long as we get some sort of level of transparency, right? If the president were to come out tomorrow and be like, well, hey, listen, like, I really want to do all these things, I want to fix society, but there's these hurdles, right, or whatever, like, that's fine, but let's talk about those hurdles then. Let's figure out what we can do to remove those hurdles. Nobody's going to be able to help you if you don't identify the problem. So, and that's another thing. I mean, the fact that we're not even having a conversation about the hurdles that are in place, um, that just kind of tells me, like, well, you don't really care then. You just want more status quo corruption, and we're just going to keep going down the same path we've been going down. I mean, like the whole Epstein thing, right? Like, this dude's whole entire platform for, you know, the last 6 months of his campaign was releasing the Epstein files. Cash Patel talking about releasing the Epstein files. Uh, Pam Bondi, the files are on my desk. Okay, why are we still playing this game? Like, I don't. It, you know what I mean? We've obviously we've been lied to. We've been lied to our face. People like Tim Pool are concerned. They think TPUSA is the only organization in the entire country that's going to give Trump a landslide victory again, which, I mean, let's be real. I mean, if you're going to lie and spit in our face a second time, then I don't see how you're going to pull off another victory. I just don't. I'm sorry. Like, you have to be honest. You have to be transparent. You have to tell people what's happening. And if you're just going to disrespect your constituents like that, well, then don't expect them to vote for you the next time you're up for an election, right? Um, I believe that's the same thing that should happen to Ted Cruz, Governor Abbott. I mean, if they're going to keep playing this like political foreign politics game of Israel first, well, that's not what we're voting for. We're not voting for Israel first. We're voting for us. We're voting for Texans. We're voting for Americans, right? Like, nobody cares about Israel. Nobody cares about Israel. When a loaf of bread costs $6 for a loaf of bread, and a dozen eggs is enough that, you know, just walking out of the grocery store, your grocery cart just with basic items is over $100. Um, I'm sorry, I don't care about Israel at that point. I don't care about Israel. I don't care about Iran. I don't care about the Middle East. I don't care about Venezuela. I don't care about any of these countries. Like, I don't live in any of those countries. I live in America. So, um, you're going to have to convince me why you deserve my vote. And if you can't do that, well, I have a feeling you're going to see more Zoran Mondamis coming up, where when people ask them, "Oh, are you going to go to Israel?" He's going to show up and say, "No, I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to serve the people that I said that I was going to serve, because I'm a public servant, not a servant of Israel, Iran, Venezuela, etc., etc." So, um, and like I said, I mean, hell, you're free to disagree with me if you want. Uh, you can continue that conversation in the comments or whatever, but this is just the way I see it. I mean, I've been here for 40 years. I've been lied to by every political party. I just don't even know if it even matters what party you vote for anymore. I think we should be focused on the content and merit of people's character at this point. And if you're just a bad person who lies and steals and abuses people, abuses your constituents, and you don't have real answers for what you're doing, then I think that you should just get out of politics in general, because at a certain point, you're going to get an angry mob at your door. And, that's not a threat from me. That's just how it is. If you look at every revolution that's ever happened, people get tired of it. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Like, you can't get mad that, you know, you're standing at the top of an ivory tower pissing on all of your constituents constantly, and then all of a sudden they rise up against you. You can't pull the victim card at that point. That's not how that works. So, you know, um, anyways, yeah, like I said, I mean, if you want to continue the conversation in the comments, you're welcome to. I kind of want to branch out and do some different topics, and this is one of those longer form videos I thought I would have a conversation about. So, if you enjoyed it, let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment. You know, Maybe we can do some sort of like a political collaboration thing or something. I don't know, whatever. I'm just trying to figure it out myself at this point. So, but yeah, y'all have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and if you so feel inclined, there's also my music channel that you're welcome to check out. I have some songs on there. Some of them, basically everything in 2024 is made with AI samples. And if you go into 2025, you'll notice that the quality drops quite a bit. And that's mostly just me. This year, I'm trying to not use samples, create my own samples, everything from scratch, from hand, and I'm just trying to learn the best possible way to create music. Um, you know, and that way I can put out some bangers, and that sound good. I mean, uh, most musicians, take years and years and years to put out a good record. Um, if you don't want the AI stuff, you can stick to 2025 and to 2026. I also have a couple of songs coming towards the end here. But yeah, I mean, if you want, right now, that's the only thing I make money on is my music. So, um, if you like those songs or whatever, go for it. My channel's not monetized. I know I have the subscriber threshold, but man, I need like 4,000 hours or something like that in order to get monetized. So, that's a crazy, like, you wouldn't think that would be a hard thing to do until you notice that not every hour of content watched is tracked, and some of them are counted and some of them are not. And then suddenly you're like, oh, that's a lot. So, uh, but yeah, so I mean, if you guys want to help me out with that, that would be great too. Uh, but yeah, like I said, the thing that I get actual money from is music streams. So if you want to support me like in a more like immediate way, that would probably be the best way. But um, I don't ask for donations. Even if I did unlock donations, I don't think I would ask for donations. It's kind of weird. Um, I just like interacting with people in general. Uh, like I don't want people to pay me for me to interact with them, if that makes sense. That's kind of weird. So anyways, yeah, I mean, if you want to support the channel, like I said, you can listen to the music that I post on YouTube Music, Spotify, like wherever you get your music from. I'm probably there. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you're not subscribed, subscribe, leave a like, whatever. Uh, but if you don't like the content, then that's cool too, man. Like, no pressure. I don't want you to feel like you have to tag along to something that you don't want to be a part of. So if you want to be here, then be here. If not, then hey, that's cool too. Like, no pressure.